doodly boo. Just setting up, give me a moment. This is not my theme song. Sorry, I'm just getting the link so I can post it everywhere. Hi everybody, it's Jan. I'm going to be working on Godot Getaway, which I think you can see here. Let me just check I'm on the right screen. Yes, I am, and you can hear me. Awesome. One moment. La 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 la. Videos. Live now. That's the one I want. And I want to make sure that's like that. And I want to share the link with people so that anyone who's bored or curious or nosy can just drop on by. One there. One there. And one there. Cool. Hi folks. I'm going to have YouTube chat up so I can actually see if you guys are saying anything. But yeah, so we're back on Godot Getaway, and I feel like I'm going to work on the lobby a bit more. I've done some more work on the lobby. So if you haven't seen how it works right now, I've decided to make the menu a little more diegesic. That is the fiction elements are within the story itself. So the reality of the fiction is the fiction. Here's what I mean. If I change the menu color, it should show up immediately. If I change teams, it should show up immediately. And I've started working on this background, and I kind of feel like it should be animated. So I'm going to work on animating it. And I don't know if I'm going to be using a tween or an animation player. I'm leaning towards an animation player because I only really like using tweens if I don't know what the original values are going to be, right? So a tween is great at taking a value, doing something to it, moving it to a new place, and working like that. Here's a message from my wife. But I think an animation player is going to be kind of awesome for what we need. So let's take a look at our scene. We have our background scene right here. And all it is we have a pivot underneath the camera. It's position 3D. And when I send a signal, it just rotates the cars around, right? Meanwhile, we've got some CSG boxes. We've got a floor, a back wall, and these metallic things. Now, what I'm thinking is that when you start the game, these should appear. So I need to start off with an animation player. And that's going to live down there. And for now, let's just close off all these ugly boxes and walls. This is kind of placeholdery, but it'll do for now. Actually, can I hide... Where's my gizmos? The lights for now. There we go. So the lights are still in the scene. They're just not showing from the editor. That'll work nicely. Yes. Okay. I didn't tell anyone I was doing this, so it's just me for now. All right, first thing I need to do is create a new animation. So I'm going to call this game start. And this is going to start... Ooh, that's a terrible way of naming it. Let's try that again. Yes, delete. Pick a single name style. Game start. Great. And that's just going to autoplay. It's going to run once the moment the game starts. And I think it should be a second long. And we need to add some tracks. So you know what? I'm going to take these boxes, that's these details here, and I'm going to take just the main boxes. So these 5 boxes, within which they've got another box that's just subtracting from its parent. So I can do a union, I can do an intersection, and a subtraction. So it's just 2 CSG boxes, one subtracted from the other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a key here. I'm going to start with scale. And that's going to be my final key. And yeah, I do want Bezier curves, actually. And let's start U at 0 on the y-axis. Do I want Bezier curves? You know what? I don't want Bezier curves. I lied. Let's not do that. Okay, one more time with feeling. New animation, start game. I haven't got a plan here. I'm just, you know, doing stuff. And I'm going to do my key on the scale without Bezier curves. And I'm going to start Oh, y-axis. There it is. Cool. Now, clearly, that's not really a good enough effect. So I need to change how that works. Where's my... take like my motion curve. I want some easing on this. So I want to ease... that way? Let's take a look. Nope. Let's try that one more time. Looks the same. Okay, cool. So we'll just keep you like that, in which case I might... I'm going to fake a bounce. So right here, I'm going to give you a new value. Insert key. Select you, and you are going to be 1.2. Okay, so that is way too slow. So instead, let's move you to like here. I'm going to call you a 0.5 second animation. Better. Not there yet, but better. Let's zoom in. Okay. So here, let's go 1.2 on all three axes and see how that looks. A little bit better. Okay. Let's put another key in. And this was going to be 0.9, 0.9, 0.9. And make that all higgledy-piggledy. Okay, we're starting to get some life on this. So that looks a lot more like what I need. Okay, so let's take our first frame and better. Okay, let's put a new frame here. And all I'm just doing is exaggerating all of the changes. I'll make them nice and rubbery and cartoony is what I'm going for. No, that one doesn't work at all, does it? That one doesn't work. Okay, let's remove this key. And instead, I'm just going to move you down to here. Just make this really fast. That actually works. Okay, so now when I play the game. Okay, so, ooh, hello. Let's restart Godot real quick. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Booli boo doo. Doodly boo doo. Where was I? Okay. Animation is back here. So for some reason, sometimes Godot freaks out, and I don't want it to. Okay, so I need these to start later. So let's just shuffle everything down there. There it is. Okay. So that will give us a couple of frames before anything happens. Great. Now, do I also want this to start at the bottom and tweak out from there? I think I kind of do. So what I'm going to do, check my notes. La, 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 la. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to also move this box. So let's take the translation. That's your final translation. And you know what? It's going to happen here. And here, you're going to be at 0. Did I? Yeah, put a key there. Great. Okay, and for now, let's just hide the other ones and see how that looks. Awesome. Now, the reason I want to do that is afterwards, I'm going to bring the other boxes in. And what I'm actually thinking is of making them pop out like little fans. So make sure my snap is on. I'm snapping to grid, and what I'm going to do is start here. And let's have our first cue right here and start our translation. And give that 0.1 of a second. I mean, we're doing this very fast, but what do we say? 1, 2. Oh, I need to put rotation in as well, don't I? Yes, add the rotation. Cool. So those 2 frames are there, and that's going to live here. I could probably zoom out a bit. Hi, Jenny. Will this be more of a multiplayer game when it's done? It will never be a massively multiplayer game, and it's not set up currently to realistically handle like 64 players at a time. But I do want to make it comfortably handle 4, maybe even 8. A lot of it depends on how good everyone's networking is and on the host computer. Right now, all the physics is on the host. So I need to check that. Also, hi. I got a message. What was my message? Oh, it's my wife. Take a look at that. La la la. My wife's in the States. I am not. She sent me a lovely little message. Awesome. Okay, where was we? We were doing stuff. All right, well, yes, I remember. Let's move you first that way. We're just going to try that. Okay, so for now, let's hide you and play the animation. Hang on a minute. Oh, duplicate key. Where's my duplicate key? Let's copy it and paste it right over here. Fine, there we go. Duplicate key, paste key. Awesome. Now that looks like it's sliding, and I don't want it to slide. So I'm wondering if we should remove that. Excuse me. Thank you. Remove that one entirely. And just have the rotation. No, because we have to. Okay, so none of that works. Let's go backwards. Meow. I like the undo button. So as you can see, I don't have a predefined pattern. I have an idea of what I want. I want pop, chunk, 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 or just fan out like a deck of cards. And what I haven't done yet is break that down to a logical step. That's a good way of breaking that down to a logical step. Thinking. It's very difficult for me. Not used to it. How can I do this? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of these. Okay, got it. I'm going to have visibility as a key first. Pop. Right there. Awesome. So that will go pop. And we're going to do the same thing with this box. So visibility, key, at 0.6 seconds in, pop. This is just to put what they call juice into the game. None of this is necessary, but it popped into my head and I wanted to put it in. Pop. Awesome. And these can go in at 7 seconds. at 0.7 seconds, not 7 seconds. That would be redonkulous. Okay, so let's start the game, see how that looks. Okay, I can live with that. While we're here, I just want to show off my particle effects. I'm quite proud of them. Do. So they still need some work, but the lifetime of the particles is inversely proportionate to how fast you're going. So they get exhaust. Still quite subtle. This actually started because Jack mentioned smoke screen. All I need to do is tweak this and we have a terrible smoke screen. Now I do need to be careful because too many particles with alpha is going to slow down the camera. It also occurs to me that you're getting terrible full screen, so let's try it like this. Because OBS does not like this game full screen. It still runs at 60 frames a second, but not for you. Cool, so we did that. Now, no, I should not have done that. There we go. I need to leave that for how the animation is going to have it. What is this math basis business? You're fine. Check the menu one more time. And see what I just got a message on Facebook about. Too many things happening. Okay. What time we're feeling. It really wants a sound effect, doesn't it? Now the idea is once we switch the teams, we can also switch the animation in the background. But for now, that'll do. I'm thinking we might be able to make something in Blender rather than with CSGs. Otherwise, we could just use fancy CFG stuff because we can deform these at runtime. So if I move you, it should move live. And it does, but you can't really tell. Okay, so we have that done. Let's take a look at what I can do with these particles to make them a little better while I'm here. So I'm going to go to Players. And here is my particle scene. It should actually be a separate scene. I want to keep the amount kind of low. If it gets too much stuff with alphas intersecting in front of the camera is going to cause slowdown. I don't care how good your computer is. If I do like that, like even an engine that's slowing it down. So let's keep it to 16 for now. And this is just a simple generated noise texture with a color gradient that's adding some alpha. Let me just take a look at this real quick. Occurs to me the alpha change is not fantastic. And let's move you up to sort of a purpley blue. Maybe a polluty feel. Yeah, that's better. Okay, cool. Let's see. Maybe if I add a bit more initial velocity, it'll clear the car, right? Because right now it's sort of just sitting there, and I do want it to poodle out from behind the car. So let's try that. Okay. I'm also like, if we could turn off the explosiveness, but then it just looks like bubbles. Like we do need the explosions. Explosive is just, does it all burst out in one, or does it trickle? And we want it to burst out. I also have this in lifetime. I don't think I need to. Local coordinates is important because we want the smoke to stay where it is. So we'll do that. Victor, why the frame drop on full screen? I don't know. It's to do with my OBS settings, right? And I've noticed this before. I can now no longer record full screen in OBS. I have to go into NVIDIA and record it that way. I think I just need to go into here someplace and change some stuff, but I need Mikey's help with that. On my screen, it's working fine at full screen, although tellingly on Ben Anderson's one, it wasn't. But good question, Victor. Thank you. Oh, I know what I wanted to add. Ha 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 ha. Jenny reminded me of this. Okay, I actually have this in another game. In my racing sandbox, which is stuck in full screen, and I deafened everyone last time, but I'm going to get a sound effect. Let's get a sound effect. Okay, SFX. Yes, show in File Manager. And I'm just going to grab this horn.wav. Not cut. Copy. Thank you. Close you. Bye-bye. And back into this game. Okay. We have a siren sound with a bump sound. Let's add... no. It's not a child. Audio stream player 3D. Awesome. And we're going to call you Horn. Can you guess what I'm going to do next? Open in File Manager. Horn.wav. And let's just put that in here. And give it a quick test. Okay, let's give you a max distance of 200 and a max decibel of 6. Okay, and put that on the right bus. That's important. That's a sound effect. Otherwise, that's going to get really lame. Okay, now we need a key. I need a key that I haven't been using. I'm using space V for vehicle horn. Yeah, definitely that. Boop. This sound effect is completely wrong for this game, but whatever, I'm putting it in. And a joy button. I've broken my controller. Why? Yeah. Okay. So, let me find, do I have an input in here? I think I do. Yes. Cool. If event dot is action pressed. Horn. Where'd you go? I went the wrong way. Muppet. If you're the horn, and this is the local player, I have to put this in because each client is going to be running instances of all other players. So, if I press the horn, only my car should beep its horn. If I don't put this bit in, everyone's car will start beeping their horns, which is a really trolly thing to put into a game. And I don't need to track this, right? So I'm just going to copy this. Okay. If the network.local player. Sorry, I'm doing all this sort of just by looking at it. Then I'm going to create call a new function that's going to go sound horn. Terrible name. Beep horn. It's not a beep. Sound horn. It'll do. We are technically sounding it. No, that doesn't need to go like that. Okay, we're just going to make a new function called sound horn, and that can handle are you the host or not. Woo! Speaking is difficult today. I'm much more tired than I thought I was. If the thing does the stuff. Right. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to go... did I name you horn? Yes. Dot play. Okay. Before we do anything else, let's just see if that works. And I'm going to adjust my volume settings so we have a chance of hearing it. Sound effects at full, music at nothing, master at full. Great. That could be louder. Okay, that could be much louder. Let me just check. What's my volume like on my machine? Oh, maybe not too much louder. Okay, but that's good. Can you go any higher? Unit decibels. You know what? There's an easy way of doing this. Let's open Audacity. And I'm just going to normalize it. I shouldn't be messing with the decibels. I should be normalizing the sound. Don't cut too many corners. Boop. Makes me happy. Export. There we go. As WAV. And you are a sound effect, and you are called horn. And I do want to overwrite you. Go back in the game, and there you are. Awesome. One more time with feeling. Next, I've got to make sure that plays over the network, which is a whole different thing. Do 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 boo 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 doo boo doo boo doo doo. Can't remember the button. Great. Okay, so that is being dealt with by the distance, and the distance is a little stronger than I need it to be. So let's up the unit decibels. How is everybody, by the way? I forgot to ask. Hi, everyone. I just felt like doing some coding and thought, well, not coding, tweaking, and thought I'd share it with you. It's about the same. No, the volume's pretty good. Okay, cool. I don't want to make it too loud, otherwise it's going to get really spammy really quickly. What I do need to do, though, is transmit it. So, first, if you're the network, you need to tell everyone else, right? Local player ID is 1, so the host is always 1, that's your peer ID. And I've just got a variable called local player ID, so I don't have to do this whole get tree, get local player ID, and all this business. So what I'm going to do is, can I call that? I'm going to give it a remote procedural call, and it can be unreliable. It's fine. And this one should be called sound horn, shouldn't it? Play horn, beep horn. Great, and that's going to be a sync function called beep horn. So that means do this on all machines, including this one. Okay, so now we have an issue. I've done this wrong. What I need to do is, if you're the network thing, tell everyone. Okay, so here's why I'm hesitating. What I should be doing is telling the host I've beeped my horn, right? So if you're not the network player with the ID of 1, then do a remote procedural call that's unreliable to ID 1, and that should work. And this one, actually that might work just as is. Let's see. Do 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 ba do ba do 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 do. And it doesn't like it. No, because I'm never calling this, right? Because I am network player 1, so that won't work. So, if player name siren, I'm just taking a look what I did with the sirens because that was quite close. So, if player name siren, so if the siren playing variable is on, do some stuff, play the sound. Okay, so that should be done to everybody. Wow, my brain just is not working tonight. Okay. Starting all this again, because this is nonsense. Let's start from first principles. First, sound horn is going to be done by everybody, right? So only the client can tell everybody to do that. So the first thing I need to do is tell the client that the horn has beeped. But I'm going to call it horn beep or beep horn. Except I am sending this to a certain client, so I need to put the client ID there. Okay. Beep horns is a terrible method name because it's not actually what it's doing. What it's doing is transmit horns. Okay. So that's an RPC call. So I'm going to sync it. And it's called transmit horns. And now what I need to do is tell everybody to beep the horns. So now I have a new function called beep horns. And to do that, I'm going to go to remote procedural call to everyone, and it's unreliable because we don't need it to arrive. It's not like movement, it's not vital. And I don't need the ID in it, and that's just going to be called beep horn. Okay, and now I just need that. So function beep horn, and that needs to be synced. Sync means also do this on the client as opposed to remote, which means only do it on another machine. And that's going to be horn.play. Oof, that was complicated. Man, networking complicates everything. I'm just trying to play a sound effect. Boop. The reason it's important to send it over the network, of course, is the only reason you would beep a horn in this game is to let someone else know you're there. Okay, I'm getting errors. What's my error? Method function failed. What are you talking about? Because you're sending it to yourself. Okay. If not, network dot local player ID is 1, boop, else transmit horns. It's a little bit hacky. Okay, so what's happening here? If you're not the network player, send this information to the network player. If you are, you don't send it to anybody, just do it yourself. That should be better. V is a really bad key for this. Okay, no longer getting debug errors. Awesome. So now, the moment of truthiness. Do. Can I open a second instance of the game? You are a host. You are a client. And we should hear this twice. You're a host, you're a client. Great. Don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. It's exciting. Man, it's taking a while. That looks like a crash to me. Oh. Maybe not. Whoa! What is this? I'm definitely getting two. Okay, so it does not like these particles. Oh, it doesn't like me rendering it twice. Okay, my graphics card is complaining. So if I just have the client, it's fine. If I just have the server, it's fine. If I have both, my computer gets annoyed. You know why? I bet I know why. Because I'm actually sending this online. I'm not doing a loopback address right now. Okay, I can live with that for now. But I have notifications. Why do I have notifications? Oh, I have a subscriber. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing, Jenny. Cool. So we have a basic horn beep going. We have some particles. I was tempted to put the jump in, but I really don't think I want to. So I was tempted to put a key in where you press the key and it boosts you up in the air, but this goes against like the basic design principles of the game. Adding the force to it's going to be a little bit annoying, but not much more annoying than what we've just done. The real issue is you're driving down the street towards me and I just leap out the way. That doesn't feel right. Instead, I feel like we should have some jumps. So let's make some jumps. Let's do that instead. I'm going to take a look at how I did these objects so I don't forget. And the closest one's going to be the parked cars, which has the wonderful name of test car. And what I really need to know is what's the angle or the position of it on the axis. So let's take a look at one of these cars. And you are on the negative Z. That's the bit I need. Negative Z. Okay, so the pavement is negative Z wood. Or negative Z wood, if you prefer. And the route is just a standard spatial. Perfect. I'm going to call you ramp. And let's start by giving you a CSG box, because they're nice and easy. And let's see, the width is going to be 3, the height is going to be 0.25, and the depth is going to be 5 foot. 5 meters, not 5 foot. Okay, let's see. So if I move you to negative Z, okay, so that's wrong. You want to be 8, and you want to be 3. Cool. And let's move you to about here. Now the problem I'm going to have is some of these are going to intersect with cars, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Let's put snapping on. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Yeah. Oh, actually, I know how big these are, don't I? These are 20 meters squared, so I'm going to put you right on the... So that's 0. That's 10. So that's your edge. So you should be about here. And let's put you at, what do you think, 25? Yes, 25 degrees. And I'm going to raise you and make a box. It doesn't actually need to be there, but yes, it's just something to look at, to be honest. It's not realistic yet. Eventually there'll probably be a dumpster. But you know what it does need is collision. Now, if I was just using a standard mesh object, I would do this with a rigid body, but this is just a proof of concept. Let's see if I can get this working first. Okay, so I'm going to save you as a new object, and you're going to be called ramp. And to use you, I now need to go back into the world scene. Let's say, hello, Mr. World. I've just been watching American Gods. Oh, that Zeppelin kills me. Okay, object spawner. That's the money. Let's start with something small. There are 25 possible ramps in the game. And I'm going to put you next to the billboards. Function. Place ramps. Okay, let's copy. You know what? It's probably going to be on from cars, isn't it? That's what I need. So, cars. Where'd you go? Spawn cars. Place cars. Okay, first we place them. That's important because we need to make sure that the network server that's generating the map has a list of where they are, and then it sends that to everybody else. So I'm just going to copy that verbatim for now. And I can talk you through it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to say, bring up a list of tiles, and I want you to generate a random tile, which is a function we define right at the top, which is nice and simple. That's exactly what you might think it does. Creates an array, shuffles the array, and then just adds to the array, or rather pulls from the array. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to say, okay, number of ramps. So you do this that many times. So while I is in range of number of ramps, everything is difficult because it's one word. Okay. And you need to be ramps. So let's take a look. Get no navigation grid map. Okay, so what's happening? We're going to tell it that the tile type has to be a certain grid location, right? So go look at where that grid is. Now check, can you rotate here? And this is really important because we can't have parked cars in the middle of the road. They can only be aligned with the pavement. So I've got here object rotation lookup, which is just a quick lookup table I've made. And all it does is say, okay, if the tile type is 1, you can rotate on 0. If it's 2, you can rotate on 90. If it's 3, it's 0, 90. And this is just a simple bitwise thing, right? So we have 4 possible directions, and any combination of those could be added up. If it's 1, that's just the top wall, which means don't rotate. If it's 2, it's the right wall, which is a rotation of 90 degrees. If it's 3, that's the top and the right. So you can have either 0 or 90. And that's all we're doing all the way through. You can't have higher than 14 because that would be inside a building, right? Tiles 15, 16, and 17 are buildings. This does all make sense, I promise. But I'm not actively trying to teach it right now. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing next. Okay, I'll probably have to tweak those values. But now let's spawn some stuff. So I'm going to go back to spawn cars and make spawn ramps. Cars. Oh, so many objects. Okay, here we go. Spawn cars. Wink. And I need tile rotation. Spawn ramps. Tile rotation. Cool. You're clearly not a car, you're a ramp. And that is not what you look like. You are a different file, so let's go get our ramp file. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. Ba-doo-ba-doo, ba-doo-ba-doo. Normally I'd be playing music while I work, but I don't have the rights. I don't really feel like getting my video shut down because I'm playing Nine Inch Nails or Rammstein. Okay. Ramp, you can go here. Simple drag and drop. We love it. More ramps. More ramps. Add child. Ramp. What do you mean? Oh, Yan. I have to tell it's a function. I can't just sync it. It has to be a function. Car rotation, because of course car rotation isn't a thing. It's tile rotation. Okay, let's see if it works. Now, I'll probably have to tweak the positioning a little bit. Something is slowing down. Oh, there's a ramp. Oh, that's much higher than I thought it was going to be. Nailed it. Nailed it. Okay, one more time. Yeah, you're not 1.2 meters up in the air. One more time. Oh dear. Me. I didn't tell it I was hosting. Host game. Host. There we go. By the way, if you want me to explain what I'm doing better, which I'm totally capable of when I sit down and do a lesson plan, you should back our Kickstarter, which is linked in this video description. That jump worked. That jump really worked. Okay, come on, purple smoke. Worked less good. Much less good. Okay. That ramp is much higher than I thought it was going to be. Let's see if I can find one by a junction. Let's see if I can drive. maybe, first rule of driving, don't accelerate when you're losing control of the car. Okay, let's take a look. Okay. So, clearly, this is going to be very, very useful when you're doing stuff. What stuff? I don't know. But that's what I want to avoid, right? So I don't want the ramp where there's a car, because that can't happen. So... because that just looks bad, right? That looks like my ramp is eating the car. What if I combine placing ramps and placing cars? Because yeah, this could work. Number of ramps. Okay, so I want to create enough tiles for number of parked cars and number of ramps, right? And then I need to copy this and put it here, but I can't put it here because that's bad, right? That's just bad practice. What I can do is check this message. What I can do is call spawn ramps from here. And spawn ramps is going to take an argument, and that argument is going to be okay, so I don't want to remove the tiles from the tile list. Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I can absolutely do that. I can just remove it. I can go tile list dot erase 0, and it's just going to pop back. Is it pop back or pop front? Pop back is the last pop front is what I mean. Pop front. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying look at array entry 0, which is the first array because off by 1 error, and then we're just going to remove it, which means by the time we get to the end of this for loop, the tile list will now only be the size of the number of ramps and will only include tiles where the cars don't exist. So from here we can go place ramps, and I can hand in an argument that is tile list. Ooh, this is sneaky. This is much sneakier than I thought it was going to be. And you're going to take tile list. And now we don't need you at all. And now that should work. Except. I can't call it on grid map done. Okay, let's see how sneaky I've been. Getting sneaky with it. Sha-na-na-na-na-na. So now we should have cars or ramps, but not both. Maps are getting more complicated. Where's my scaffolding? Boring start to the level. Here it is. Oh, there's a ramp. Okay, there's a ramp, no car. There's a ramp, no car. I didn't like that boring start to the level, though. Where's all my stuff? I mean, I guess that's the fun of proc gen, right? I've broken it! I'm stuck. Oh, the horn freed me. Okay, so that kind of worked. Now let's fix this ramp. Gonna make you a rigid body, and I'm going to give you a mesh instance, which is going to be a cube, and you are going to live over here. Chunk, 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 chunk. And now I'm going to get rid of you. And I'll worry about collision in a moment. First, let's get you the right size. You are going to be 3 wide by 0.5 thick. Sure. By 6 deep. No, wrong way, wrong way. 6 deep. 3 wide. Okay, that's not enough, so 8. Awesome. You know what? 50 centimeters is too thick for this. So now you live like that. What are you doing, Jan? Move the rigid body, not the mesh instance, because the physics is on the rigid body, and that would be bad. Cool. Let's just lift you up a bit. And now we can give you a collision shape. And you should be the same as your parent. Great, so I don't have to worry about that. And let's just tweak you. I realize I could just type these values in. It's probably a more sensible thing to do. 0.25, 1.5, 4. Perfect. Okay. Let's make sure I'm only selecting that and not its children, which is not you. Where'd you go? I lost it. Fine. Let's just do it manually. And you will start by sleeping. And you are still too... There we go. And you are 0.25. Oh. 0.125. Okay, let's try that. You know what? Let's give it a seat this time. Slowly, slowly, slowly. It's being very slow. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Well, I found a billboard. Please work, please work, please work. It didn't work. I didn't put the collision layers in, did I? Genius. Okay, collision layers. You are not a city, you're an object. And you interact with, that's your problem right there. There we go. Wasn't interacting with the car. One more time. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. I'm a little peanut covered in jam. Okay. Why are all my spawns so boring at the beginning? These ramps. They really are, though. Ramming speed! Didn't work. Why didn't it work? Oh, because you have to be here. Genius. Banana. Gonna drink some tea. It's cold. I don't like cold tea. I don't like cold coffee either. I'm always in awe of people who enjoy iced tea and iced coffee, because I really don't. Okay, you know what? Let's just for now put you as a static body. I'll put the music back on. Okay, music. Not too loud. Ooh. Okay. So that will work, but a couple of things. One, those particles are actually a bit of a problem right now. Two, I need a way of writing the car. Now I could do something very fancy, right? I could detect if the four wheels are on the ground, because there's a function to do that. If all four wheels aren't on the ground, start a timer. Well, that sounds like a lot of work. Because what I can also do is put in a key. And that key will say flip car. Flip car is going to be C. Terrible key. CV control WSAD. Oh, it's just a bad layout. And you're going to be a joystick button. What aren't I using? I'm using A, I'm using Y, I'm using B. What? I'm using A twice. Oh, look at that. Okay, so B. Let's put. No, you can't be B. Let's put you to Y. Let's change the brake to B. Not that the brake works properly, but you know, let's change it there. Okay, cool. So, what I'm going to do is check my input. Okay, so I need a good place to do this, right? I need to set the position through the network because it can't just be local. That won't work. Apart from anything else, the server will reset your positioning. So, what I need... Let's manage server. Manage clients. Oh, are we not? Yeah, we are setting the position. Transform. We're not setting the rotation. I mean, we are. We're setting the transform. Let me check something real quick. It's weird, isn't it? You put in something that feels like a really small change, and it turns out it's huge. Okay, so transform includes translation, rotation, and scale. So rotation will be in there. So what I need is to figure out the axis I'm going to rotate on first. So let's do that. So the z-axis. Cool. Okay. Let's go to input, which is hiding. I've got way too many functions in here, and I need to start splitting this code up again. This is a mess. Input, I found it. It's fine. Not going to use any elifs because they're not mutually exclusive. Is action pressed, flip car. And is local player. Definitely put that in, otherwise you'll flip everybody's car, which sounds awful, although quite fun. Okay, so if I press the button, I need to... I'm basically going to copy this, right? If not network dot local player ID is 1, RPC, this does need to be reliable, RPC flip car, else flip car. Cool, because you cannot send a remote procedural call to yourself, except that needs to be RPC ID, and we need to send it to the server only. Great. So now let's make flip car. Function flip the car. Brum 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 brum. Transform. Do I mean transform? Wait, what's wrong with you? Oh. I always confuse transform and translation. Not a maths teacher. Transform dot rotation. Excuse me. I need to do it with everybody, right? So rotation degrees. Let's just try this. Dot Z plus equals 180. That feels like it's going to go wrong. What did I see this was? C? Hey, Jack. Welcome. It's okay. It's very impromptu. So many people knew I wasn't doing this. Or didn't know. Many people... That's wrong. Not many people knew I was doing this. Not many people knew I wasn't doing this. I'm going to drink some water while this loads. Everything's fine. Maybe some sort of check to make sure that I'm above the thing. So let's actually move up as well. Translation.y. Can I do that? Of course I can do that. Yeah. Plus equals 3. It's a very cool feature. It's disappear through the floor of the world. Oh, it's like an existential nightmare. Bonk. Okay, and that needs to be there because of these ramps. Let's go look at the ramp. Kind of miss the particles, but... Okay, so now if you flip over, you can unflip. Now, I feel like that shouldn't really be a key. If Mikey asks, by the way, yes, that is the final way that this ramp's going to look. It's not going to get texture. It's just going to be a random board on a random box that doesn't move. Unless he wants to make something. I missed. I can play my own game. I know what I'm doing. Alright. Let's line up. What do you guys think? Should they be in the middle of the road? I mean, I feel like they shouldn't be in the middle of the road, but do you think they should be in the middle of the road? I await your reply. Should the ramps be in the middle of the road? And while you're telling me, I'm going to give them a basic texture. In fact, you know what? I'm going to copy it from scaffolding. Material. Where's the material? It's probably on the mesh instance. Copy. So right now the ramps are at the side of the road. Should they be in the center? Mesh instance. How long have you been doing this, Jan? Haha! And you know what? Let's do the same here. You get the same material. I should just save this as a wood material, shouldn't I? You should move. A mix on the middle of the road and the sides. Oof. Complicate things, why don't you? Tempting. I can also move them slightly away from the edge of the thing. So let's do that and that. Well, how about this? This is a terrible idea. Okay, that one's in the middle of the road. That one's by the pavement. Or sidewalk if you're American. I mean, really, these are just here so you can make cool jumps. But theoretically, they'll have a tactical value. If you're being chased by someone, you think you can make the jump and they can't. But that's just not true. Okay. Who's left this junk in the middle of my city? Game of the year. I'll take my BAFTA now. Oh god, this is going to annoy so many people. Okay, so it takes the realism right out of the game, but it makes me happy. Oh man. Now I need a clown horn, like this one. Oh, Jack, I gave you a clown horn. Oh, this game has become so much harder. Okay, so while that's fun, I don't think it's the right call. So instead, why don't we just move you slightly away from the pavement? Yeah, okay. Let's see how that looks. I should probably do something to make it look a bit more dumpstery, but I feel like that's something that should be done in Blender. Like, in theory, I could do that with a CSG. I just don't think it's the right call. Plus, I don't want to get stuck in a dumpster. Or a skip, if you're English. So luckily the center of gravity is nice and low. So you're going to flip over most of the time unless you land directly on the roof. I wonder if it's any easier in the cop car. Losing control of the car. Okay. Pro tip, lose control of the car, slow the car down. Oh, it's meant to be horn. Okay, I need a better button for horn. Because this is horn, this is flip the car. You know what? I need to check if that's actually going to work on the network. Let's find out. Dump. Great. You could be the host. And you could be the client. And I'll minimize that so the client can run. In your own time. Where'd it go? Where is it? There it is. Okay, so clearly there is a potential exploit right there. Because I've just realized I could just keep adding height forever. Because I'm adding height when I flip the car so I don't fall through the ground, right? So what happens if I just spam it? Let's take one of those jumps again. Okay, so that can't be allowed to happen. So you should only be able to flip the car when you're on the ground. Am I using move and slide? No, of course I'm not moving and slide because this is not a kinematic body. Okay. So I need to make sure that you can only press it once every few seconds. So we need a flip timer. And it's a timer. And it has a 3-second wait time. And it's called flip timer. I need a variable called can flip. Meow, 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 meow. Need some more tunes. Sure, you can live here. Variable can flip. And I need it to be an instance variable because, no, it's not a function. What are you doing? True. Great. Okay, so if I flip the car, which is here, and can flip. Great. Whether you're doing that or you're doing that, flip car, can flip rather, equals false. And then flip timer, no. Thank you. Dot start. Okay, now we need a signal. Do 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 do. And I found it kind of funny, and I find it kind of sad that the dreams on which I'm dying are the best I've never had. There's a very cheerful version of that song. Can flip equals true. Did I do anything stupid? Almost certainly. Let's find out. I kind of want a hang glider mode now. I know what we can do with the Zeppelin. Okay, we'll make the Zeppelin go across the city much faster, and then you have to choose when to drive out, and I'll call it PlayerUnknown's Godot Getaway background. It's very sensible. Okay, so I can flip once every however many seconds I set that to. Awesome. What I could do is make it a button on the screen, but horn can't be V. That's a stupid button for it. Tab. That's the button it's going to be. It always annoys me when you play shooters on a mouse and keyboard, which I don't do very often anymore. And it's like Control, Alt, C, X, Z, V, B. These are terrible keys. Okay, horn, you are now tab. Okay. What else can we do? Oh, you know what? Can I make these a little bit nicer? I bet I could. I bet what I could do is I could turn off the alpha. But if I turn off the alpha, the smoke's going to look terrible. Draw passes. Let's look at the material. And that's material. So the flags and turn off transparent. Maybe that'll help. Ooh, no. Ah, cotton wool. I do kind of like the flying mode. Okay, that's terrible. Okay, so that smoke doesn't work. That's not how smoke works. Smoke has to have an alpha channel. So you're transparent. Transparent is tricky. It's just going to slow down the machine if we get the camera in the wrong place, isn't it? What if we just drop the amount of smoke? It's a good key. You can use that one. Now, I'm not going to tell Mikey that I've just got and added these jumps in the middle of the street. We'll see if he likes them. Nailed it. Oh, I can use it to get out of the... Wow! Yeah, the particles just not worth the slowdown, are they? I don't know how accurately you can see the slowdown, but I'm dropping frames whenever the particles take over the screen. That was a good tone. Really want a better sound effect for collisions. Like, that is a really heavy collision. What I'd like to do is get the sound effects right. I mean, I started playing with screech sound effects on Skid, but one, detecting skids is actually not that well done. Two, so if you have a realistic skid sound, right, as opposed to an 8-bit skid sound, you really need it to be reacting to what's happening in the street, and a simple looping screeching sound doesn't do that. So you need to do things like the pitch and the duration are being modified by how fast you're turning. But this is kind of satisfying. So there is a possibility that we'll put a stretch goal way down the line, if we can get there, to have the car be damageable. But we need to get that stretch goal first. Which reminds me, if you want to, you should share the Kickstarter with people on Twitter and Facebook and stuff to get the word out. I actually haven't looked. It's slowing down quite dramatically, which I kind of expect in the middle, but it always makes me nervous. I don't like it. Yeah. So I'm reaching out to people to figure out where else I can spread the word. I don't want to be spamming people relentlessly. It's not how I work. But I need to find markets for people, or not markets, I need to find how to best spread the word to people who would want to hear about this who haven't done so yet. So if you guys have any suggestions of where I should be doing that, I'd love to hear them. How to jump. See, this game is now just about jumping. Do you think we should record that bit? I think we should record that bit. Actually, before we record that... no, don't shut down OBS. Let's switch off this exhaust. It's just not worth the effect it's having. Oh, wait. Am I culling this? Yes. Oh, there goes that idea. Okay, just disable them for now. Let's take a quick clip. Start recording. Apparently I can record while I stream. I did not know that. Do. Host game. Banana Yan. Oh, it's quite a good seed. Let's make a turn. And let's make it jump. Ha 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 ha! Completely useless jump. Okay, so I feel good about that. So we did that. We've did the new lobby. I'm going to show the new lobby because I know Jack hasn't seen it. But when you open the lobby now, it does this. Ka-chunk, chunk, chunk, chunk. I quite like that. And then you can spin the card around. Need some more deco there. I think what we need is some materials here with some normals. So it looks like we've got carvings in them. Maybe some UV wrapping, some UV detailing. I think that'd be fun. I think bronze. It should look like bronze. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. I think that's a good place to stop doing that. So I'm going to switch to this view, which is over here. Boop. Hi. Um, and thank you guys for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned things or not learned things or had a good time. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, interpretive dances, now's a good time. Otherwise, I'm going to go to bed in a minute because it's coming at midnight. Well, it's not actually. It's just gone 11, but that counts. Do 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 do. What about some of the billboards? What about some of the billboards? I mean, I could make more billboards. That's pretty easy. You just go to GIMP and you start making billboards. Oh, put the billboards in the lobby menu. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's kind of sneaky. I'm going to close GIMP. I wasn't sharing my screen anyway. Yeah, or some posters of some kind would be good. No, smart. I like that. You can even randomize them and spin them around. No, not spin them around. Too much spinning. Well, yeah, good. So I hope you had a good time. I'm really excited about the Kickstarter. I want to find ways of getting it to more people so that we can get to that stretch goal because I'm really excited about that too. So share it with people if you wanna. I'd love it if you did. But thank you for being part of the stream and for watching it and supporting us, whether that's through backing the Kickstarter or just by hanging out. So yeah, I'm off to do other things now. Bye.